Welcome to the Linda Cohn Show. So glad you're there. I am Linda Cohn. Big news. My former employer, ESPN, made a big announcement in the last couple of days. Pat McAfee is joining Monday Night Countdown. Of course he is. And before I get into what I think about that, let me give him credit for something he absolutely deserves credit for. Look at what this guy has built. It's simply amazing. He bet on himself. He created his own show. He developed his own style. He developed his own brand and a huge following, a younger following that ESPN has been so desperate for. They want the kids to watch the worldwide leader in sports, and Pat McAfee brings it. But I admire it all, but admiring what Pat McAfee has accomplished doesn't mean I believe he needs to be everywhere at every time. Because, yeah, ESPN wants Pat McAfee to be everywhere at every time. How much Pat McAfee is enough Pat McAfee? The answer apparently was more, according to ESPN. Now, there are reports, get this. So it's not only the Monday Night Countdown. There are reports of an alternate Monday Night Football broadcast in the works involving, guess who? Pat McAfee. So let's review your potential Monday during the NFL season, which is just a couple of weeks away. 3 hours of Pat's daily show, the Pat McAfee Show from the game site. Then Pat joins Monday Night Countdown before the game. And then on certain nights, potentially his own alternative broadcast of Monday Night Football. At this point, let's just call it Monday Night McAfee. Has a nice ring to it. But wait a minute. ESPN already has Peyton and Eli Manning and the Manning cast. I love Peyton and Eli. I love the Manning cast. Nobody panic. The reported plan, according to ESPN, is not to compete against them. That's right. This alternate broadcast with McAfee would air on the Mondays when the Mannings are not on the air. Okay, let me get this straight. I have to ask this. Why? Why? I have to laugh. Apparently, if Peyton and Eli take the night off, we cannot be left alone with the actual football game broadcast. What's wrong with Buck and Aikman alone? Can't we just watch them? The actual football game? I can't stop laughing. It's crazy, right? But naturally, we need another alternate broadcast. And naturally, it's Pat McAfee. So Pat in the afternoon on his show, Pat before the game on Countdown, potentially Pat during the game. What about the reaction? It hasn't been great. It hasn't been pretty, even from people who like him. I mean it. I'm not making this up. They're basically saying, I like Pat. I watch Pat. I just don't need him at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There's even being a phrase of some kind, a saying of some kind, an ailment of some kind being thrown around. It's called McAfee fatigue. And now some NFL analysts are questioning the idea of the alt cast as well. People are legit asking, is this just too much of one person? And now sports media commentary, for what it's worth, is even suggesting that Pat McAfee has surpassed Stephen A. Smith. Yes, that's Stephen A. Smith as the face of the network. You heard me. For years, Stephen A. was everywhere. You already know this. First Take, NBA coverage, Sports Center, special events. I didn't think anyone could be more on my screens than Stephen A. Smith. He's a hardworking person. He really is. But apparently somebody said, hold my beer. If opportunities on a platter keep coming from McAfee, you actually think he's going to say, you know what? Hold up. No, thanks. I think America has seen enough of me. No, and I don't blame him. Of course, he's not going to say that. This is about the network and viewers actually demanding more. Or has ESPN simply decided viewers should want more of Pat McAfee? Because there's a difference. And then there's something that happened this week that almost perfectly symbolizes this entire thing. The universe is crazy. I mean, the timing of this is nuts and it's sad because the founder of ESPN, Bill Rasmussen, he passed away this week. One of the men responsible for the fact, the man that was responsible for the fact that ESPN even exists. A tribute aired on First Take for Bill Rasmussen. And while it was wrapping up, the network cut away. Why? It was noon Eastern, time for the Pat McAfee show. Come on, you couldn't script it any better. You couldn't script it any worse. Pat would later address it on his show, saying he had nothing to do with it. And that's true. Pat had nothing to do with it. The network did. And that is exactly the point. This isn't about blaming Pat McAfee. It's about asking why an environment has been created where something like this actually happens. And Pat McAfee still ends up at the center of it anyway. A founder is honored, a tribute is cut short. Pat gets blamed, he responds, and suddenly we're talking about Pat again. Welcome to Overexposure. When you're everywhere, somehow, some way, everything becomes about you. ESPN has done this for decades. They have their favorites, let me tell you, and they make sure you know it over and over and over again. The viewers can speak up, say they don't like it, but ESPN most of the time turns a deaf ear. They do it more than you know, trust me. I was there. And overexposure is real. Hey, I love pizza. I do. But I don't want it 7 nights a week. No, I don't, even though I think about it, but I don't. Sometimes the easiest way to make people want less of something is to give them too much of it. So again, credit to McAfee. He built his empire. We got that. He built the audience. He built his brand. He got that. He built the leverage that he has on ESPN. This is all on ESPN. They've chosen to pay him a reported $60 million a year. Question, though, to you guys, and feel free to let me know in the chat box how you feel about this whole thing of Pat McAfee ad nauseum. Is ESPN building its brand around Pat McAfee, or is ESPN slowly becoming Pat McAfee's brand? Because when the man who helped create the network is being honored, his tribute gets cut short for the Pat McAfee show, and Pat McAfee still ends up in the middle of the fallout. Maybe the bigger question is why isn't everybody still talking about him, right? So that's the thing. Even when he's kind of pulled away from the whole situation and it's not his fault, we are still talking about Pat McAfee. So the bigger question isn't why everybody keeps talking about him. Maybe the question is why we're not being given any other choice by the worldwide leader. That's what I don't get. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I want to hear what you think.